Today on the Matt Walsh Show, racial segregation is back in a major way as the Kamala Harris campaign holds racially segregated campaign events. Footage from the White Women for Harris event and the White Dudes for Harris event have gone viral. It's even worse than you feared. Also, Trump calls for mandatory prison sentences for flag burners. The Dems have zeroed in on a new line of attack against conservatives. We're weird, they say. Talk about projection. We'll talk about all that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. As a DailyWire Plus member, you get uncensored, unfiltered, ad-free shows, the latest breaking news, and more. Join the fight now at dailywire.com/subscribe. There's only one cell phone company that gives you free premium access to the media that you actually care about, and it's Pure Talk. This might be the best offer Pure Talk has ever come out with. Listen to this. When you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you'll get a free 1-year insider subscription to DailyWire Plus. That's right. Take advantage of unlimited talk, unlimited text, 15 gigs of data, and the mobile hotspot on America's most dependable 5G network for just $35 a month, and you'll get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus. The DailyWire Plus Insider Plan gets you access to our entire library of movies, series, and documentaries, including Lady Ballers, What is a Woman, Mr. Bertram, Run, Hide, Fight, and more. Plus, you get all of our daily shows uncensored and ad-free. But the only way you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Walsh. I've been telling you to stop overpaying for your cell phone plan for a long time. If you haven't made the switch over to Pure Talk yet, now's the time. Go to puretalk.com/Walsh today, switch to a qualifying plan, and get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. Well, if you're one of the 12 people in this country who still believes anything you see on cable news, if you're the kind of person who, say, watches Chuck Schumer's press conferences on Capitol Hill without being paid to do it, then there's a chance you're actually enthusiastic about the candidacy of Kamala Harris. You've been told that her campaign's off to a great start, and why would you possibly doubt it? In a matter of days, she's transformed into a better candidate than anyone expected. She's so inspirational, in fact, that the Obamas endorsed her in an awkward phone call several days after everyone else in the party had already endorsed her. Now, what's missing in all of this manufactured enthusiasm is any explanation for why the party coalesced around Harris, or why she's supposedly a better candidate now than she was 4 years ago, or even like 4 days ago. She hasn't had a single clever moment, a great speech, certainly no innovative policy ideas. To the extent that she's said anything about policy, it's to undo everything that she said back in 2020. So she has no substance or even style. I mean, at least Obama was skilled enough with flowery rhetoric that the media could pretend that he was profound and inspirational, but what is Kamala's skill? What positive characteristic are they inflating or overstating to turn her into this supposed political sensation? There isn't one. I mean, the transformation here is happening entirely and solely in the media. Kamala is the same Kamala she's always been. What we're witnessing is the media figuring out a new branding strategy in real time. Now, 4 years ago, Democrats experienced a similar political crisis. To stop Bernie Sanders, they had to rally around Joe Biden, a perennial failure in politics who nobody, including his old boss Obama, took seriously. So to help sell Biden to voters who had rejected him several times before, Democrats resorted to a strategy that's now very familiar. They manufactured racial conflict. They told black voters that the other side of the aisle wanted to hunt them down and kill them. They turned lifelong criminals like George Floyd and Jacob Blake into heroes. And they told white voters that unless they're bigots, they should be good allies and vote for Democrats. The strategy worked. The fabricated media narrative and race hoaxes contributed to a kind of mass formation psychosis, to borrow a term from Robert Malone. Tens of millions of Americans were convinced by the lie that police officers regularly murder black people. They tolerated looting and violence in major cities in the name of racial retribution. And ultimately, more than a decade after Obama promised to usher in a racial utopia, we became a far more race-obsessed and racially conflicted society than we were at the turn of the century. It's precisely because this strategy worked that Democrats are now trying it again. For the second time in as many election cycles, Democrats are running a candidate who can barely complete coherent sentences, much less articulate a single achievement from their time in office. They know that race hate is once again their best option. Only this time, they're being even more explicit about their intention of dividing Americans on the basis of race. We're now in the midst of a full-on white guilt election. The Democrats are doing everything they can to mobilize voters by playing on white guilt. They've decided, solely by virtue of their skin color and the mortal sins of their ancestors, that white people have an obligation to support Kamala Harris. And while they're supporting Harris for good measure, white people need to stay the hell away from black people. In fact, white people aren't even supposed to join the same virtual calls as black people. I mean, that's how unclean these lepers, these white people are, according to the modern Democrat Party. So to that end, just hours after Joe Biden ended his campaign for a second term, Democrats began holding racially segregated political events using Zoom. First, there was an event for black women supporters, which more than 40,000 black women joined. Whites were not welcome in that, apparently. Then there was an event for black men and for black queer men and for Asian women. Again, whites not welcome in any of those. They went through all the identity groups and subgenres. I don't know if they had a Zoom event for, gay Aboriginals or plus-size disabled furries, but they'll get around to that if they haven't. And finally, on Thursday, there was a Zoom call for people identifying as white women, which was joined by more than 200,000 participants, a number so high that the Zoom call crashed several times. And you can understand why there was so much interest. I mean, it was history in the making. This Zoom call marked the first major opportunity for white people to get together in a whites-only political meeting since the KKK was shut down. And the white women certainly made the most of it. Of course, at their whites-only meeting, they made sure to say that, conservatives are racist. That's one of the things you do at whites-only meetings. Naturally, you call people racist for refusing to hold segregated events. Goes without saying. But then things got weird, to use the term that Democrats now repeat at every opportunity. A woman named Ariel Fodor began speaking, sort of half singing or whatever the hell she was doing. And her contribution to the struggle session was so on the nose, so exactly what you would expect from something like this, that it verged on self-parody. Watch.
Of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to speak today. I am shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because, as if you were here earlier, you've heard BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step up, listen, and get involved this election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good, but don't make it about yourself. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots.
I mean, I'm not the first person to say this, but that would be my hell. This is my hell right here. Being trapped in a room with a woman like that, speaking in that way for eternity. That is my hell. Ariel Fodor, aka Miss Frazzled, not to be confused with Miss Frizzle of Magic School Bus fame, says BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women. So, all women who identify as black, indigenous, and people of color, every single one of them have collectively decided with no dissent to tap women like Ariel Fodor in to help achieve their political goals. Now, I have my doubts about whether that happened, but if it did, that ranks up there as one of the worst decisions that the BIPOC collective has ever made, at least since they started referring to themselves as BIPOC. As it stands, the message Democrats are sending via Ariel is clear. White people are not allowed to correct black people. White people need to get involved, but in a subservient role, because you are inferior. And you certainly don't want to correct them ever. I mean, God forbid you do that, says Ariel. You see, black people are never wrong. And if you think that black people can make mistakes, then you need to update your algorithm, says Ariel. She actually said that, update your algorithms. In other words, you need to make sure that your programming aligns with the latest software update from the DNC. So if a black person says that, 3 times 3 equals 57, just nod your head and smile. If a black person claims that elephants are reptiles, don't correct them. Remember, you are the one who is wrong automatically. If a black person shoots you in the chest and steals your wallet, don't dare breathe a word of protest, you bigot. You thank that BIPOC American for his feedback, and you die without complaint, like an ally. Now, I looked into this woman to make sure that she's a real person, because when I first saw this, I honestly thought, oh, well, it's so on the nose. I mean, she starts by saying, I'm literally shaking. So she's hitting all of the key buzzwords and phrases and everything. It lines up perfectly with a parody of these types of people. So at first I actually thought that's what it was. Maybe this is some sort of conservative plant who infiltrated the white women meeting to make Democrats look bad, which would be very funny. But turns out that, no, she's real. She has a huge TikTok account. She's apparently a teacher who makes videos about political topics, except she addresses her audience as if they're kindergartners. Here's one of those videos.
Hi, friends. It's time to share the Arctic now. Your turn is all done. Got it? I know you like when people share with you. Well, you need to share the Earth with everyone, plants, animals, and people. The White House had to take special action to protect 13 million acres of land in the Alaskan Arctic because the Arctic is a super special place. Yeah, people need gas for cars these days, but there are more respectful ways to do it. Taking things from super special places hurts nature. So let's turn your choices around and find ways to help the Earth instead. Did you know places like the Arctic need to stay cool to keep our planet the right temperature? When you protect places like the Arctic, you are helping keep the Earth cool.
Who is this for? Who is this for? Who is this content for? Apparently she has thousands of followers. Who is this for? What reaction am I supposed to have watching that? It's a sincere question. Is it supposed to be funny? Am I supposed to laugh? Am I supposed to be informed? Who chooses to watch something where the whole bit is that the person is being patronizing and incredibly annoying? I'm stunned. Now, the reason the shtick doesn't work is that she is clearly the dumb one, not the conservatives that she's attempting to mock. The only reason that she's pretending to address a mute off-screen kindergartner is that that's the only way she could potentially win an argument about anything. And even then, she still loses. I mean, she's arguing with invisible 5-year-olds, and you can't help but be on the side of the 5-year-old who doesn't exist. Now, to be clear, I'm not cherry-picking one insane speaker from the white women Zoom call. They were all varying degrees of crazy. Here, for example, was actress Connie Britton. She begins on message by saying that all white women are privileged, et cetera, and so forth. But then she starts talking about all the great things white women have done before spiraling into a discussion about her own life experiences and then concluding that women need to break free by literally blowing up American culture. It's not really clear what she's talking about, but you can judge for yourself. Watch.
And, interesting, white women. I mean, here we are. I have to admit, when I was writing stuff down, I was like, Karens for Kamala? I don't know. Why is it so difficult, as Glennon was saying, to acknowledge and address ourselves as white women? But here we are. And I am so proud for all of us to be together as women, as white women. We are the ones that have the privilege, of course. And we, too, have had to fight and continue to fight for our equality, our selfhood, our freedom. But we have whatever privileges our white male counterparts have had the mercy and good sense to bestow on us. And then whatever else of it we have managed to take for ourselves, often being led by, as many have said earlier tonight, the leadership of our sisters of color who have fought. And my life experience shows me that often as women, we have to blow our lives up in order to truly know ourselves, empower ourselves, free ourselves. This is because my life experience tells me the structures of the culture are deeply defined for us, and we must behave within the confines of these structures. Of course, these structures were created by men to benefit them, so oftentimes the only way we can break free from them is by literally blowing them up, which my life experience tells me often looks like bad behavior. But it is, in fact, an act of deep self-love.
So did she just confess that she was planning some sort of terrorist attack? Literally blowing up the structures of society. I thought what's even more revealing is that she says you have to blow your own life up, which is the kind of thing, I mean, it's good to watch stuff like this, especially as if you're a single man and you watch this and, you know, you don't need any incentive to stay away from women like this, but in case you did, this is why you don't want to date a liberal woman. Because she thinks that what you're supposed to do every once in a while, randomly, is just blow your own life up for no reason. And they do. They will actually go and do that. They'll just destroy their own lives and families just because. Now, we're supposed to watch footage like this and conclude that conservatives are the weird ones. We're supposed to watch this unhinged, whites-only call and conclude that Republicans are the party of bigotry. And I guess we're supposed to wait in suspense to see what Connie Britton decides to blow up. Not to be outdone, the pop singer Pink joined the call, and just a couple of weeks after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, her contribution was to declare that Donald Trump is not human. Watch.
I'm not a person that loses hope, but I'm feeling like I'm losing a little bit of hope if this is what we're doing. And I don't understand it. And now I feel, not only on a call like tonight, listening to you all speak so beautifully, and listening to the fact that $1.1 million was raised and that we're all really fighting for the right thing. We're really fighting for the right thing. And it's not about which candidate is perfect. It's which candidate is human and wants to keep us all human.
Now, nobody knows what she's talking about. Nobody knows why she's dressed like she just got a record deal from Cash Money Records in 1998. There are many mysteries here. And now, in response to videos like this, it's tempting to say, well, these are just wealthy, demented celebrities who aren't remotely representative of the rest of the electorate. But that's not exactly true. Again, there are hundreds of thousands of people on these calls, and there are other indications that these events reflect much broader and more fundamental changes in the electorate all over the world. Back in January, the Financial Times published this chart. This data, which is pulled from Gallup, shows that men and women were split pretty much equally for decades along the liberal-conservative divide. But over a period of just 6 years, a massive gap has opened up. Women between the ages of 18 and 30 are now 30 percentage points more liberal than their male contemporaries, according to the Financial Times. And there are similar gaps in Germany, the UK, South Korea. And more recently, this week, the Wall Street Journal found that there are massive gaps between men and women on several fundamental cultural issues. For example, young men oppose allowing children to choose their gender identity without parental approval by a margin of 33 percentage points. And that margin should be much higher, of course, because the idea of gender identity is made up and parents should be able to tell their children that. But the numbers for women are even worse. In fact, women actually support allowing children to pick their gender identity without parental approval by a margin of 2 points. Meanwhile, the University of Michigan found that 12th grade girls are now far more likely to identify as liberal than they've been at any point since 1975. So these are seismic shifts, and they suggest that what we're seeing on this Zoom call is now more common among American women than it's ever been. Women, particularly single women, are now the backbone of the Democrat Party. Married women and both single and married men tend to vote conservative, but single women are the outlier. They're the ones tuning into these Zoom calls and nodding their heads as Pink says that Donald Trump isn't human. Now, as significant as this problem may be for Republicans, of course, the problem isn't confined to women. Pretty much anyone with low testosterone appears to be affected. So if you thought the estrogen was out of control in the whites-only women's event for Kamala, wait until you see what happened at the whites-only men's event for Kamala last night. Somehow there was even more talk of crying and feelings than there was at the women's event. So here's the actor Josh Gad, for example.
Also, quick observation. They have Kid Rock, Kevin Sorbo, and a dolphin aficionado. And we have the Hulk, Samwise Gamgee, Luke Skywalker, and Mayor Pete just on this Zoom. That's pretty damn cool. I'm a white dude. That much you can probably tell by now. But I also happen to be a father of 2 girls. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept. I wept because I felt like I let them down. I wept because they had the chance and we had the chance to have a female president for the first time in our lives and in the history of this nation. And instead, we put a man in office who not only disdains women, but whose own wife can't look him in the eye, whose own daughters seem to want nothing to associate him, to be associated with him.
So 8 years ago, Josh Gad cried on election night because Hillary Clinton didn't win. Now, there are some mean people who are saying that Josh Gad hadn't cried that much since his local Krispy Kreme shut down. And I'm not a mean person, so I'm not saying that. But mean people are. And I abhor such insensitive comments. I would never say it myself. I would never repeat it. Anyway, instead of doing everything he can to scrub this memory from his mind, pretend it never happened, because it's like shameful and embarrassing, you're crying over your... How do you think imagine being a child and waking up and your dad is standing over your bed crying. How do you process that? And instead of just being embarrassed that this happened, he's openly admitting it on a racially segregated Zoom call with hundreds of thousands of white people, no less. Oh, and also he thinks that Democrats are better than Republicans because they have more celebrities on their side that he likes. One of those celebrities is the guy who played one of the hobbits in The Lord of the Rings, Sean Astin. And he actually stumbled on an interesting observation as he was overcome with emotion himself. Watch.
The idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel. Interesting, powerful concept. And to include all, we said in our invitation, everyone is welcome. That's a really interesting phrase. Everyone is welcome. You might hear it in other places. I'm pretty sure you can feel that it's true here with this particular political party and this particular candidate.
Everyone is welcome. Everybody gets an invitation. It's pretty easy to turn the invitation down. Hey, men, do you want to get on this Zoom call and all cry together? Talk about your emotions and why you hate being a man and hate being white? No thanks. Tempting, but no, I think I'll pass on that one. So he says the idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel is an interesting, powerful concept. This is an observation that might explain a lot, actually, although Sean Astin didn't realize it. For a lot of people in this country, the idea of white men communicating about issues that affect them is simply unheard of. You might as well talk about communicating with aliens. Every other demographic group gets to communicate about its alleged problems, but if white men do that, then they're demonized. That brings me back to one major factor that Democrats do have working in their favor this election. They are making an explicit and direct pitch for the white vote. Now, yes, they're doing it in a twisted, insane, degrading, insulting way, but they are doing it. Republicans, on the other hand, are terrified to even acknowledge the existence of white people, especially white men. They'll make a direct appeal for the black vote, Hispanic vote, female vote, but never for the white vote, which means that this white guilt strategy is not countered. Republicans will make fun of it, rightly so, but they won't counter it. They won't say, no, white people shouldn't feel guilty. They should be proud of who they are. They will never say that in a million years. They want to have a big tent, but they will not explicitly invite white men into it. Even Democrats are doing that. Republicans won't. Instead, they simply take the support of white men for granted and do nothing to mobilize it, which is a mistake that Democrats never make with their core constituencies. So there's an opening here because again and again, Democrats attack white men. Like they invite them in, but then they degrade and attack them. They also attack the very idea of masculinity. This is from the very beginning of yesterday's Zoom call. Watch.
And that happens at the same time as the myths around America that we grew up with, that we as men are expected to be protectors and providers, are going out into an economy that doesn't really allow for that, especially for working class folks. And sort of like compounding on that, masculinity as a trope has been co-opted by the MAGA right into something that feeds into and exacerbates the loneliness epidemic, as well as the mental health crisis that many face that end up leading to really destructive behaviors. We aren't the only ones that are hurt by these things. Black and brown people, LGBTQIA plus people, especially trans women and indigenous people, and all sorts of other folks in our society who've been historically and often still today are marginalized and being hurt.
He can't even talk about the problems that he perceives that white men are facing without spending. It's like a prescription drug commercial where they talk about the drug for 5 seconds and then they spend 55 seconds talking about the side effects. And it's the same thing here. So they can like spend 5 seconds saying, oh yeah, white men are experiencing this, but it's not worse than indigenous and black and this and that. And they spend most of the time talking about all the other people who are not white men. But this is apparently the message that Democrats are running with. It's a myth to say that men are expected to be protectors and providers. Now, the second part of the guy's statement is kind of true. The economy under Joe Biden makes it much harder for men to provide for their families. That doesn't make the role of men a myth. It means we should be doing everything we can to fix the economy and encourage more men to create families and enable them to create families and enable them to provide for their families. But instead of saying that, Pete Buttigieg, the paragon of masculinity, hopped on the Zoom call and said that abortion is great because it gives men more freedom. This is why Mayor Pete supports abortion up until the moment of birth. It's one of those things Democrats are never supposed to say out loud, even though they all think it. Abortion frees men to have sex with random women because if a baby is created in the process, they can always have it killed and disposed of. So what's being said here, it's not really about women at all for Mayor Pete. It's about empowering more men to abandon women and their potential future family to have more meaningless sex. Watch.
I'm so glad she has made freedom the theme of her campaign because I think in so many ways that's what's at stake. And yes, women's freedom is Exhibit A after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion.
So the Democrat message to white people on this call is clear. You're racist. You need to shut up. And if possible, you should kill your child so you don't have a family. We don't need any more of you people running around. That's what they want white men to aspire to. And this racial guilt trip strategy, it's one that either works extremely well or it falls laughably flat. There's not a lot of room in between those extremes. For those white people who have been successfully indoctrinated into the cult of anti-racism, who've had their minds twisted nearly from birth by the idea that they're responsible for every atrocity in human history simply because of their skin pigment, for them, this strategy is deeply effective. For those of us who were not successfully brainwashed, the whole thing is absurd. It's grotesque. Laughable. Right now, it's clear that the Harris campaign is wagering that there are enough white people in the former category to push them over the top. And they're not being subtle about it. After jettisoning Joe Biden, Democrats have decided that they're once again going all in on anti-white race hatred. They're betting that conservatives won't even attempt to counter it. But it wouldn't be hard to counter it. Imagine if Trump came out and just said this: white men have been demonized and scapegoated for too long. They helped to build this country. They deserve respect. I mean, that would be a start to say that. The media would come out and attack and call it racist. Let them. Let them. What, you're saying we can't say white men deserve respect? So we're not even allowed to say that? Go ahead and bait them into making that claim. Meanwhile, millions and millions of white men would hear themselves actually defended by name the same way every other group is, for the first time on the national political stage. That's how you respond to the strategy that Democrats are now fully committed to. It's how you return masculinity and sanity to this country. And it's how you ensure that in a little over 3 months, all of these celebrities are crying like it's 2016 all over again. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Being a husband, father, and host of my own show means life never slows down. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. Sounds pretty time-consuming, and sometimes I just want an egg sausage McMuffin. But with Balance of Nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables every day with 31 different whole fruits and vegetables ingredients. Balance of Nature takes fruits and vegetables, freeze dries them, turns them into a powder, and then puts them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Walsh for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Walsh. Grand Canyon University is a private Christian university located in Phoenix, Arizona. GCU believes that our Creator has endowed us with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They believe in equal opportunities and that the American dream is driven by purpose. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote your flourishing, which create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, Grand Canyon University's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your degree. GCU has over 330 academic programs as of September 2023. GCU will meet you where you are, provide a path to help you fulfill your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. Find your purpose today at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. That's gcu.edu. All right, you've heard about Project 2025, which is something put together by the Heritage Foundation. It's basically just a policy proposal, conservative policy proposal for the next administration. It's being called a blueprint for the Trump administration, which it is, a proposed blueprint. An idea of what Trump might do, should do in his first year in office. Trump himself did not write or compile Project 2025. Plenty of people in his orbit had a hand in it, but it's not Trump's official agenda. So this is not a Trump campaign, an official Trump campaign thing. Well, as you've no doubt heard, the media and the Biden campaign, now the Harris campaign, have been hitting Trump on Project 2025 a lot. They say that it's an extreme agenda. They say that it's Trump's blueprint for becoming a Hitlerian dictator and ending democracy. It's dangerous. It's terrible. All this kind of stuff. That's absurd, obviously. It's not any of that. It's just conservative policy. That's all it is. Most of it is good policy, in my opinion. But the Dem media establishment, they have tried to make this thing into a boogeyman. Now, Trump in recent weeks has responded to this attack by scrambling to get as far away from Project 2025 as he possibly can. He's repeatedly disavowed it and condemned it. Here he is at a recent rally addressing it. Watch him.
Okay, you have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation, and they keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy?
Now, the second part of that, him countering the attack that he's a threat to democracy by saying, hey, I took a bullet for democracy, that's great. That's a great line. It's not just a line, it's true. It happens to be true. And it's the kind of statement that if anybody, there are very few other people in political life who can say something like that without it being extremely dramatic and over the top. But for Trump, it's literally true. But the first part of that, he says that the Project 2025 is radical, it's extreme. At other points, he's called it severe. It's a product of the severe right, he says. Now, it isn't any of that. It isn't radical or extreme. It's just conservative. But this has been Trump's approach. He has clearly disavowed it and said that he has nothing to do with it, doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And here's why I'm bringing this up. Because has the disavowal strategy worked? No, not at all. I mean, not remotely. In fact, as Colin Rugg reports on Twitter, Kamala's campaign, just on Twitter and just this week, has hit Trump on Project 2025 over 20 times. Just this week. After Trump said, I disavowed, I got nothing to do with it, it's not mine. And still, it's just, this is what they're returning to over and over and over again. The media is still running headlines like this. Here's the Daily Beast a couple days ago. Trump's truly terrifying Project 2025 is already underway. Trump's truly terrifying Project 2025. Lots of headlines like that. So he denounced it as extreme. That has not slowed down the attacks at all. If anything, it's only increased them. And why is that happening? I mean, why would the left still claim that Trump is responsible for Project 2025 even after Trump has gone out of his way to distance himself from it and denounced it and denounced it in terms that, by the way, are not really fair because again, it's not this extreme thing. But why would they continue? Because this is politics, and politics is a full contact sport for the left. They play for keeps. They want to win. That's all they care about. So when Donald Trump starts scrambling to get away from something, they don't look at that and say, oh, okay, never mind, guys. He doesn't. He said he denounces it. Let's move on. Let's move on. We thought, Trump, we thought that you were a Project 2025 guy, but you said you're not, and we'll take you at your word on that one. Let's talk about something else. They're not going to do that. Okay, that's not going to happen. No, they do the opposite. They smell blood in the water. So they see that Trump perceives this to be a vulnerability for him, so they exploit it. They say, well, Trump Trump never disavows anything. He's disavowing this. He must be worried about this. Let's ramp up the attacks times 50. And that's exactly what they've done. So they hit him in a spot, he recoiled, and so they said, great, that's where we hit him, right there. And they start wailing away at it. And I bring this up for a reason. It's an important reason because there's a lesson here. And this is why it's just never a good strategy to disavow something at the behest of the left. It never works, never. The disavowal is just a bright neon sign pointing to the attack line and saying, hey, this works, this scares me, don't talk about this. So this is why we don't do that. It's especially why you don't disavow something to your right. You never disavow to your right, never. Now, the reality is there's no way to stop the media and the Dems from hitting Trump on Project 2025. They're going to do it regardless. He can't stop that. But he can do more to diffuse the attack, I think. And the way to do that is to say something like, hey, listen, Project 2025 is not my specific agenda. I have my own agenda, but there's nothing wrong with Project 2025. Lots of good policies in there. It's not a scary thing. People should just go read it for themselves and check it out. That's the right response. It's the only thing. It's really the only effective response you have at your disposal. And probably you're at a point where, like, you could disavow it. It's not going to work. All the people that are, no one even knows what Project 2025 is. They don't know what's in it. No one's actually went to read it. You think of all the leftists that are using this and talking about how scary it is. How many of them have actually read it? Like, none of them. Nobody knows what's in it or what it even is. And so you're probably at the point where you actually need to go and say, listen, here's what's in it. Here's what they're calling scary. Okay, is this really what's scary about this? Meeting it head on in that way rather than trying to get away from it. But let's stay with Trump here for a minute. Trump has also provoked the ire of the media in recent days for suggesting that flag burning should be criminalized. Here he is a few days ago talking about this. Watch.
We're going to be smart. We're going to listen to Tom Emmer and Pete and all of the other. You got great people in this group, I tell you. You have great people. And we do not need more people who want to burn our flag. I watched yesterday and the day before, they're burning our American flag. And I said, I know they say it's unconstitutional. Well, make it not unconstitutional. You burn our American flag, you should get immediately mandatory 1 year in jail.
So he says 1 year in jail. And the crowd liked it. Lots of people, though, in the media and so on are freaking out over it. And the people freaking out over it are right about one thing, which is that a law like that could never actually be passed. It would be shot down by the courts in like 10 seconds flat. It would stand no chance. But with that said, let me just say a few things in Trump's defense on this issue. First of all, I would much rather have leaders who are, if anything, overzealous in their defense of and love for the flag. I'd rather have leaders who err in that direction than in the other direction. Okay, to me, that's not a bad thing at all. A leader who loves the flag that much that they'd like to make it illegal to burn, even if they can't, but that's what they would like to do because they love it. To me, that's a good. That's good. And I'd always like to have you err on that side. The problem on the other side is that, they'll say you can't make flag burning illegal for constitutional reasons. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the Constitution at all. The reason they support burning the flag or the right to burn the flag is that at best, they just don't really care. Like, it doesn't make them angry. When Trump sees someone burning the flag, it makes him angry. It makes him deeply angry, as it should. But on the left, and especially politicians on the left, when they see that, at best, they feel nothing. They just don't care. So it's easy for them to say, oh, no, yeah, you got the constitutional right to do that. But they just don't care. And really, a lot of them, it's worse than not caring. They support it. They like to see the flag burned. So I'd rather see you err on that side. Second, more importantly, and I don't know why this isn't being pointed out more often, but I'll just say this again because I pointed it out. In almost every context where the flag is burned, you can already and should arrest and imprison the people responsible for it. And you could do it in a way that is completely constitutional. So take the protesters who burned the flag during the Netanyahu speech, which is what Trump was referring to. Well, you don't need a law against flag burning to put those people in jail. None of them are in jail right now, by the way. I think a few of them, from what I read, were charged with something and released immediately. And I think the charges were dropped. I don't, as it stands right now, I'm not sure that anybody has gotten any charges that actually were put on them and stuck. But you don't need a law against flag burning to put those people in jail. They've already broken like a dozen laws. Okay? For one thing, they're burning a flag that is not theirs. That's a crime. They've confiscated property that isn't theirs. That's theft. They have destroyed property that isn't theirs. That's vandalism. They've deliberately set fire to someone else's property. That's arson. They burned the flag in the middle of a city on the sidewalk outside of a federal building. That violates multiple laws right there. Okay, you can look up the Washington, D.C. fire code. Just skim through it. It's multiple. You could find all kinds of crimes that they committed in there. Starting a recreational fire within 25 feet of a structure, of like a building, which is what they did. So, and then there's permits you need to get if you want to do any kind of burning at all. You have to get permits. I'm sure they didn't get any permits for this. So the point is, the fire code alone in a place like D.C. is very detailed and extensive, and I guarantee that the burning of the flag was not in accordance with the fire code. So you can hit them on that. So look, sure, if someone goes in their own backyard, here's a situation where if somebody burns the flag, you can't really touch them. You can't do anything about it legally. It's if they purchase their own flag and they go in their backyard in conditions where it's safe to burn something. It's not too windy. It's not, there's not a no burning ordinance because we're in the middle of a drought or whatever. And they're clear of any structures, anything else. They put the flag in a fire pit and they set it on fire. And maybe they film it. Okay. In that scenario, yeah, you can't. There's no crime that was committed, and you could arrest them. They're going to immediately get out of jail, and then they'll sue you, and they'll win. But here's the thing: nobody burns the flag that way. That's not how the flag is ever actually burned. If it happens, it's always in a context like what we saw in those videos a few days ago. It's at a rally. It's in a protest. People are angry. They're doing this. They're doing it in front of other people. They're doing it for show. Very often it's not their own flag they're burning. So there are all kinds of crimes you could charge them with. You just have to do it. In other words, I'm saying we should approach the people who burn the American flag the same way that authorities already approach those who burn the pride flag. Now here also, okay, if you go on Amazon, and I'm not encouraging this, but I'm just spelling it out. I'm just saying, it's not encouragement. I'm simply saying that let's just say you were to go on Amazon, purchase a pride flag. They've got all kinds of pride flags on Amazon that you can buy. And then you were to go into your backyard, clear of any structures, right? Put the pride flag in your fire pit. Maybe douse it with a little bit of lighter fluid. Let's say you were to do that. And then you set the pride flag on fire and you watch the glorious flames consume it. And you film it. Well, if you did that, yeah, they would love to charge you with crimes. They really can't. There's nothing they can charge you with. Because you haven't broken, there's no law. You haven't broken any law. So they probably can't get you. They'd like to, but they probably can't. So burn away. In that scenario, not encouraging, I'm just saying, in that scenario, you would be legally within your rights. But on the rare occasion when someone actually burns a pride flag, they don't usually burn it that way. It doesn't happen often. But every once in a while, you hear cases of someone burning a pride flag. And usually when it happens, it's the flag's being burned publicly. The person burning it didn't necessarily purchase it themselves. And that sort of thing. So there are other crimes technically committed. So what do the authorities do in those cases? Well, they throw the book at the flag burner. They don't charge him with the crime of burning a pride flag because that's not a crime. There's no law that says you can't do that. Instead, they just look at this and say, we are going to find every last crime we can that you arguably committed, and we're going to hit you with all of them. And we're going to go for a max sentence on all of them. Now, why are they doing that? They're doing it because you burned a pride flag. But you can't prove that. You can't prove that that was their motivation for hitting you with all these charges. And you technically violated all those laws, so you're screwed. This is what we should do with the American flag. But instead, we do it with the pride flag. Right? We could have that kind of seriousness about protecting the American flag. That, yeah, if you do it in the limited circumstance I described, backyard, your flag, all that, we can't do anything. But if you venture outside of the regulations here and laws at all, we are going to come down hard on you. And we're going to, and yeah, if we can put you in prison for a year for burning the American flag, we'll do it. And those people who did it during the protests a few days ago, you could put them in jail for months, if not years. If you hit them with every crime they committed and you threw the book at them on every single crime and you went for the max sentence on every crime. But that's not what happens. The authorities don't do that. You burn the American flag, you committed all kinds of crimes technically in the process, they'll let it go. They don't care. You burn the pride flag, they're not going to let that go. They're going to look for the crimes and they're going to find them. Why is that? Well, because the people that run, the powers that be, the authorities in this country, they view the pride flag as our nation's flag. They're much more interested in protecting the pride flag than they are the American flag. And that's how they go about it. But they're also smart enough to know that, they don't need to go try to pass some law saying you can't burn a pride flag. They don't need to do that. They can still put you in jail for doing it. They'll find another way to do it. And we could do the same thing with the American flag. It just takes, just enforce the laws that are already there. There are a lot of laws on the books, and enforce them. Are you still struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns? The IRS is escalating collections by adding 20,000 new agents and sending millions of demand letters Handling this alone can be a huge mistake and cost you thousands of dollars. In these challenging times, your best offense is with Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved clients millions in back taxes. Regardless of the size of your tax issue, their expertise is your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities such as garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, or if you're missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then they'll create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and now that tax season is over, collection season has begun. Tax Network USA can even help with state tax issues. For a complimentary consultation, call today at 1-800-958-1000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Walsh. That's 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Walsh today. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. Jeremy's Razors Christmas in July sale ends today. This is your last chance to get 25% off all razor trial kits at jeremysrazors.com. That includes the Precision 5 razor. It's been radically redesigned for an exceptionally smooth and close shave. Get the deal that couldn't wait for Christmas before it's gone. Go to jeremysrazors.com for 25% off today. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. Over the last few days, the Democrats have settled on what they hope will be the winning political strategy to carry them through to November. The strategy is this: call the opposition weird. That's it. Yes, the brain trust of the DNC came together and adopted a strategy first pioneered by the Mean Girl lunch table in middle school. The memo has gone out. Marching orders have been passed down. Call Trump, J.D. Vance, and all of their supporters weird.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird. Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
Well, you get the basic idea. So that was a supercut compiled by Grabian Media showing that the Harris campaign and its apparatchiks and the corporate media are, as always, reading from the same talking points. 2 days ago, you would never catch them calling anyone weird as a pejorative, and now they delight in saying it like a child who just learned a new cuss word on the playground. And that was just a very short snippet. I mean, articles in the mainstream outlets like Rolling Stone and USA Today are echoing the sentiment. AOC is tweeting about it. Yesterday, she insisted that Republican policies are, quote, an incel platform, dude. And she continued, quote, it's super weird. A Kamala Harris super PAC called Don't Pack Down just produced an attack ad hammering this point home, or trying to. The PAC tweeted the video with this caption, quote, these guys are just weird. And here's the ad, which itself can only be described as, well, deeply weird.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start.
If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more involved.
When you have sexual intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
My son monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That's true, you can look it up.
Don't you think that's normal?
Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November.
We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
Now, if you were to tell me that that was a right-wing parody of a left-wing portrayal of right-wingers, I would have believed you. But unfortunately, we live in a time when most parodies are unintentional. And of course, the irony here, as Peachy Keenan points out, is that those sweaty, weird guys in the video, in real life, are all voting for Kamala Harris. And that is, in general, the most obvious and necessary and true response to this messaging pivot from Democrats. Now, yeah, we can note the hypocrisy of it. We can observe how these very same people have, up until this very moment, embraced weirdness as a virtue and strongly condemned anyone who used the word as a pejorative. These are the people, after all, who live in cities like Austin and Portland, where the unofficial city motto printed on T-shirts and emblazoned in giant letters on murals is "Keep Austin weird, keep Portland weird." So these are people who made up terms like neurodivergent and brag about being neurodivergent themselves, all in an effort to normalize and celebrate what was once considered weird. So they're being shameless hypocrites with no moral standards to speak of, but that's basically baked into the cake at this point. The more effective and important rebuttal is to point out how the people calling Republicans weird are the same people who tell us that men can have babies. These are the people who insist on having drag queens read to children, who demand that we put gay pornography in elementary school libraries, who walked around triple masked and quadruple vaxxed during COVID, who in some cases are still masked even today. These are the people who laid prostrate at the golden casket of a criminal drug addict who died in police custody in 2020 and demanded that our cities burn to avenge his death. The people who insist that we refer to single individuals as they, who invented pronouns that don't even exist in the English language, and on and on and on and on. These are the people who want to throw around the weird label now. I mean, it's like having a 700-pound, severely obese guy in a motorized scooter roll up and call you a fat ass for eating too much broccoli. I mean, everything about that dynamic is backwards and confused. Actually, I take that back. It is backwards, but it isn't confused. They're not confused about anything. They know exactly what they're doing. They are running around, pointing at normal people who say and do normal things and snickering about how weird it all is, because the whole point is to rebrand normalcy as somehow objectionable. They want to make normal people feel weird about being normal. They have no argument to make against us, no way to debunk our points, no position they can articulate, so instead they take a more visceral approach. They figure that if they can point and laugh at us, they can, through sheer mockery and peer pressure, make us believe that normalcy is grotesque and bizarre. And then they hope that we will flee the normal thing and embrace its opposite, embrace what is actually weird, because we'll be so confused at that point that we won't see it as weird. If their strategy works, then we will feel weird for thinking, for example, that women are female. And by default, we will embrace the proposition that women aren't anything in particular and don't actually exist. An idea that is, among other things, very, very weird. But we will accept it so that we will not be called weird. That's the plan. And we must admit, it can be extremely effective. There's something, again, visceral about it. It plays on the psyche of the average person. I mean, think of it this way. Imagine that you took just the average person, put him in a room with 20 other people, and gave him a basic first grade arithmetic exam. How long would it take for the 20 other people to berate and harangue that one guy into no longer believing, or at least pretending to no longer believe, that 2 + 2 = 4? Imagine that he wrote 4 as the answer to that math question, and every other person in the room turned to him and said, "Really? You think the answer's 4? What are you, some kind of weirdo? Seriously? Why are you so obsessed with the number 4? What's with your 4 obsession, you weirdo? Why did you write 4? What are you, in some kind of cult or something? Who says 4? 4. That's just weird. Super cringe." Now, how long before he starts questioning his own understanding of elementary school arithmetic? How long before he forfeits mathematical truth just to make the harassment stop? How long before he actually convinces himself that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4? Now, we'd like to think that nobody could be berated into denying something as basic and obvious as that. We'd like to think that. But our recent experience in this culture proves otherwise. People, for the most part, are suggestible and non-confrontational and prone to insecurity. And they just want to get along without drawing too much attention to themselves. These are all things that can be, and so often are, exploited. That's what this weird campaign is all about. And it's why the non-weird among us, the actually non-weird, the normal, need to stop bowing to it. Instead, we need to start, we need to say to these weirdos calling everyone else weird that you are today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Today on the Ben Shapiro Show, the Kamala campaign focuses in on all the single ladies and all the dudes who want to bow before them. Kamala Harris flips on many of her major 2020 positions just in time to run for president again, and Joe Biden babbles his way through a proposal to destroy the Supreme Court. That's today on the Ben Shapiro Show. Give it a listen.